What's going on, people? Matt back here with you. Very excited to be doing the podcast again. This time with Spenny from Kenny vs. Spenny. Very excited for you guys to listen to the episode. Just a couple quick things that I need to acknowledge right at the top. This is the first one in a while. I'm very excited to be back. Thank you for people who are excited about the episode and checking it out. If you haven't been aware of what I've been doing, I've been posting a lot on my TikTok under Matt Lane, as well as I posted a new EP called Songs I Play in the Dark on July 30th. It's out now on Bandcamp, as well as there's a live special out on YouTube right now. Links for everything is down in the description below if you want to keep up with other stuff I'm doing. I don't know when the next podcast is going to be completely honest, because I'm about to go through some major changes in my life. But I really want to get this one done because Spenny is about to go on tour for the solo music and comedy tour of 2021 for Ontario. And yeah, so with that being said, please enjoy the podcast. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's been a very long time since I last posted a podcast, but I wanted to make sure the first podcast back was something very special. Ahead of his solo music and comedy tour, Ontario dates starting this Wednesday in Peterborough and hitting a bunch of different dates. We're going to go through all those in a little bit. I'm from Kenny versus Spenny, one of Canada's gems. Spencer Rice, how you doing, brother?
I'm a precious gem. I'm well. I'm excited to go out on the road again. My understanding is you're going to be opening for me in Peterborough, which is cool.
Yes, I'm going to bring down the crowd, and then you're going to lift them up with your comedy.
Okay, well, it'll be heavy lifting after your sad music. So, and I don't mean quality. I mean the content apparently is depressing, I've heard. But that's okay. Go ahead.
It's a weird mix of happy music but very depressing stories.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll do it. We'll deal with whatever it is. But yeah, no, excited about getting on the road. COVID has been literally a year of not gigging, and I love gigging, so it's great to be back.
Yeah. So what has the pandemic been for you during this time with you not being able to go on the road?
I've started with a guy named John Brown, my YouTube channel, which I'm monetizing, which is helping, and finally putting my ass in gear to do that kind of stuff. So that's been great. Spending a lot of time at home with my family, which has been challenging, but great overall. And just got a third dog, and play my music, write my comedy, and just waiting for the world to open up. And it seems to be, although I'm a little skeptical given what's going on in the US right now.
Yeah, it seems to be very back and forth at the moment. And just like we were, I think, a few months ago when we had that kind of brief period of like, is things going to start going back to normal? We're kind of shifting back into, it doesn't seem to be that great, but it literally is day by day at this point. None of us can really predict it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I've already heard our US tour might be in trouble because I know that I was given two different vaccines, the AstraZeneca and the Pfizer vaccine. And I'm not sure whether they're letting people with two different vaccines into the country. So I might have to get a third vaccine. We'll see what happens. It's been absolutely crazy, wild what's been going on.
So kind of to tie to the main reason why we're here to talk about the tour that's coming up this week. The tour starts literally tomorrow when you guys are seeing this episode in Peterborough. So
Wednesday.
Yes, this is Wednesday. We're dropping the episode Tuesday. Tour starts on Wednesday. What made you want this tour to become more of a retrospective piece in terms of your career? Was it kind of just you felt like this was the time to kind of just look back on everything and then also showcase what you have going forward, or kind of where's your mentality with that?
It's a bunch of things. It's a lot of it is sort of this second banana reputation I have from working with Kenny. And when we do our live show together, Kenny and I, it's a lot of him attacking me on a various number of life issues and relationship issues, friendship issues, whatever you want to call it. And, I've done, certainly people will know Kenny versus Spenny, but I've done other projects such as X-Rated. I made a movie called Confessions of a Porn Addict. and as well as my live stream, they're really not that well known. So they've, for years, I've just been saying these are great projects that have sort of been sitting in a box with nobody seeing them, and I have posted them on my YouTube channel. But it's fodder, the tour was initially going to be me playing music completely. My whole approach to music is very selfish. I play music that I love. I write funny songs, but mostly I'm playing covers for classic rock, blues, and country, which you'd have to say is not exactly commercial. So on the advice of Kenny and also my promoter slash manager, Brandon Bird, the idea was to, Spenny it up a bit and not just play my music. And I resisted it for a long time. And, all that work was done, and I can contextualize them, show the clips, and people will laugh, I think, and enjoy it, as well as the Kenny versus Spenny stuff. So, it's just something that I've been asked to do for a long time. And I guess my feelings were a little hurt because, it's like, why can't I just play music? Why do I? And I've just sort of just succumbed to it and got all the work done in terms of pulling the clips and pulling the stories, because there'll be some behind the scenes stories, right? About how these shows happen and everything like that. I'm also writing a book about my career, which I find to be completely narcissistic, because it's not like my career is up in the moon, so, but it's just I'm very compulsive about my creativity, and this is the direction it's taken, and I'm embracing it, as opposed to making it hard for myself, because I'll play a music show, and a lot of the music I play, is a lot of the people there weren't even born when the music was written. The classic rock, especially the blues stuff, which is way older than me. And I'd like to think that people, I could turn them on to it, but with the waning attention spans of sorry, I just got, that's my guitar tech is working on my resonator guitar. Anyhow, so what was I talking about? Sorry, that just.
I know you were going in a lot of directions, and I think it's just because I can see why you were partly reserved when it came to actually doing something retrospective. I remember when I was watching Kenny versus Spenny back in the day, part of me always thought that there was more to you creatively than the show was giving off. Because I can see in your mind, it's kind of, you and I kind of have a similar thing where it comes to the creation process is very self-involved kind of thing. And with writing a book, yes, it's very narcissistic, but because of that, it also allows you to reflect and have that retrospective, which is a good thing and also a bad thing, depending on how you look at it, because I can see that maybe partly is like a conflicting element, creativity, like what your soul wants, but you're also trying to please the people who are coming to see you. It's a very interesting scenario.
Well, it's that too. And the other thing, which I don't think anyone could really appreciate, I think I write about it in my book, but Kenny versus Spenny was essentially 22 minutes per episode. And because of the nature of my personality, and I was doing the competitions, so that 22 minutes, the actual camera time I would get would be, half of that if I was lucky. And a lot of it was with Kenny. So it's even a fraction of that. It would have to be on point vis-a-vis the competition, where Kenny, because of his personality and his comedy, could kind of do whatever he wanted. And it wouldn't have worked. The show wouldn't have worked, I don't think, if I did that as well. Not that I would, because that's not who I am. But so that was another way of suppressing a lot of the stuff that I love to do, comedy, writing, etc., music. So, performing alone with this kind of thing is just a chance to, let that part of my career, which has been either silenced or pretty much not seen very much by many people, it gives it a chance to breathe a little, which is, hopefully it'll be nice. I'm trying to, there's a lot of stuff to go through. So I'm at the point where I'm still cutting material, to talk about during the thing. And I feel like, it's a good opportunity for me to for people to familiarize themselves with not just Kenny versus Spenny, but everything else as well.
I think that's truly a wonderful thing, because I know as a fan, I related to you and your character because of the conflicting nature of certain things, and I hold that. And when it comes to the actual creative aspect of it, where do you find is most difficult when you're in the process, whether it be writing a song or writing a new piece of comedy, in terms of like that inner voice trying to allow you to be your creative self while aiming at more commercial?
I think that I've never been a schmoozer. I've never been. I'm a sort of a bit of a loner and a bit of an antisocial person. So the business side of it has always been. I've been very lucky in the last few years to work with people that help me with that. Because there is no focus to my career, and it's probably to my detriment financially. And I'm stubborn. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, when I was living in Los Angeles and we had Matt and Trey from South Park executive producing season 4, and we were on Comedy Central, I was living in LA, and I thought, this would be a good time to get a manager, like a LA agent manager type. And I couldn't even do that, which I found incredible because, my God, we're on Comedy Central. Matt and Che are executive producing. And the reason was, and I found out this later with there's just LA people who really know the business, the way LA works. And when I would go meet these agents and managers, they'd ask me what I did, and I would explain to them, well, I do music, I write, I do comedy. At the time I was doing stand-up, and it was confusing to them. They didn't know. They want the girl with the big tits. Okay, she's the cheerleader in the movies, right? And they'll represent that narrow thing. Now, that's not to say that maybe there are limitations to my talent. I don't know. But what someone told me who really knows said, you're pitching yourself as an everyman. I also would say I'm a director, because I was directing and I was a producer. They don't know how to deal with that. So I was my own worst enemy without even knowing it. And it seems like I'm sort of incapable of focusing on one thing. I don't know if that's a show business form of attention deficit disorder or me being selfish. I don't know. But there's no way I'm going to start playing commercial music, rock music. Well, I'm too old now, but let's say when I was younger, I'm going to continue to play, the music that I love. Period. And yeah, there's a price to pay for that. I'll never have a recording career, even if that was feasible. And I'll be playing in bars, but I like playing in bars. I mean, that to me is, my hero, John Hammond. I mean, when I saw him, he was playing in a little cafe, and I've tried to pattern myself as much as I can after him, and I'm very happy with that. But it takes me out once again of conventional show business in terms of a music career. But that's it. I think some people, look at Kiss, what they did in order to create a commercial image for themselves that could make money, and they're still making money, albeit this is their last world tour, but they're one of the top money makers. I've never thought that way about my creativity or the stuff that I do. And it's, financially, I suppose it's to my detriment, but I'm happy. I'm happy as long as the gigs keep coming up and I can continue to work on my craft.
I think that's the best way to live. And to go back to your point of selling yourself as this everyman kind of thing, that's the reality for most creative types, is they have so many interests and so many drives and so many things that constantly split them, because there's so many different ways to express yourself creatively. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because
well, like I said, it's not that there's right or wrong. It's been at the expense of maybe financial success in certain projects. I don't really know. I mean, look at for example, my show X-Rated. I absolutely love that show, but it was essentially pulled off of Super Channel because it was so insane. Kenny versus Spenny, you could say the same thing too, where, I want to do what I think is cool, not something that's necessarily safe. You know what I mean? So, geez, I have to take responsibility for the decisions that I make. And I think that I do. I'm still a little kid in a way, that's just tickled pink that I can go on this tour. I'm going to Peterborough, Barrie, London, and Niagara Falls, and then I'm going to BC at the end of September. I still am like pinching myself that I can do that, but it took a lot of work, and I put in a lot of hours into the music, especially. But I don't know if I could survive in these shark-infested waters of Hollywood. I tried once, and clearly I got a little bit of success with Kenny there, but it didn't really last for either of us. So you just keep going. That's the thing, right? It's a compulsion.
And that's the creativity that drives you. And to be honest, with the way, like, not even just the music industry specifically, but even entertainment, the way it's going, if the pandemic has shown us anything, audiences are dying for that personal connection. They're dying for that authenticity. They're dying for people to truly be themselves in a world where so much is commercialized and so much isn't as authentic as it could be.
Well, here's something that I this is a real interesting insight, because we live in this age of communication with social media and everything. So one would think that even if you're paying for boosts, let's say on Facebook, where you pay them to basically, surgically go into the city that you're playing, and so that people will see it. What Kenny and I had found many times is that we'd be booked in a city, and if we got there a day early, whatever, we'd go out and check the town out, and just do some sightseeing kind of thing. And fans would see us, and they would have no idea that we were playing. I mean, I'm talking about small places, Chatham, and so oddly enough, getting the word out to the people that would be interested in seeing you, either taking a chance or they know you, is still, in this age of mass communication, is still difficult to do, precisely because of all the information that people have shooting at them, and I'm sure that's going to happen. That, for example, our Peterborough gig that I'm doing with you, we'll see. I don't know how many people even know about it, to be honest with you. I mean, I try to post it on Facebook. I know the promoter, he pays for the booths. The room could be half empty. It could be full. There could be 6 people there. And it could be, of course, a reflection of that nobody wants to see you. You're maybe, could be irrelevant. I don't know. But by and large, and I'm not saying this for ego reasons, because I fundamentally don't have an ego. It's still very hard to, and you put posters up, which is really the best way to do it in that town. But that becomes a whole thing, because they get torn down immediately, or you have to pay, for them. And now you're competing with the bigger shows that have companies that post our cities. So the level I'm at, it's still difficult. And then you have to balance that by, you don't want to post about it too much, because then you look either desperate or. So I've never figured out the whole live thing, other than to put my head down, get the booking, do the best show I can, whether there's 6 people there or 300 people. And that's how I do it. And there's no way that I know of at the level I'm at around that to get the word out, that so that people who actually would like to see me know that I'm there. I can't tell you how many times. You were in Peterborough when? They don't even know about it.
I think the issue is, and you definitely nailed it with, there's too much noise being pushed. But to kind of counter that, there is also this resurrection, especially now I'm noticing that, like, a lot of these Canadian talent people, whoever it is, whether it be in music, comedy, movies, acting, whatever it is, a lot of them are coming back because of that nostalgia factor that's always continuous and is never going to change. Like, the amount of people, like, just before this, I'm getting spammed with notifications right now on my phone. I can see it while we're recording this. People are beyond excited that I'm just sitting here and having a conversation with because they know you and they're familiar with you. And like, definitely once the word starts getting out there, and the approach you have for just getting your shit done in terms of just nose to the grindstone, focus on the creativity, put on the best show possible. That's the best way to approach it, because when you start adding in a million different factors, that's what overcomplicates and creates divide in that creative process.
I don't know what else to do, to be honest with you, but again, you're saying that people are excited. Will they show up? That's always one thing. Will they pay the ticket price? But then there's the people that don't know, and that's what I've been saying. There's a lot of people out there who won't know that I'm there that might want to come, right? Who knows? But that's there's nothing you can really do about it. Like I said, at the level I'm at, when you or the Rolling Stones, you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars that are devoted to promoting these things. So, so it is what it is, and yeah, that's it. You do the best work you can. And hopefully if someone likes it, they'll say something, and the next time I'm in town, they'll come out. But by the way, Kenny and I, they don't even write about our shows anymore. Like, no, we don't get journalists coming out. Sure, we'll do the odd podcast, but that's not even something that you can read in the paper. Oh, Spenny's coming to town. They won't get it that way. So it's all social media now, and there's just a ton of shit going on that that can distract people, because you're really looking for people that are within driving range of that gig. So even if I post twice a day or 3 times a day, which 3 times would be too much for me, that person within driving range has to see the post, and it's going to be way down on their newsfeed. Most likely, they might not even be on Facebook that day. So that's the struggle. And then, of course, the weather in Canada can get pretty nasty, and sporting events. There's always something. So you're right. The best thing to do is to just focus on the work, because at the end of the day, that's really all you can control.
The simplest way I look at it when it comes to, especially because I myself work with a lot of young artists that are just fresh out of the womb, so to say, and just trying to give them just general direction on how to approach it and try to sift through the noise. But the only thing that I've seen that sifts through the noise and the cream rises to the top is the content good, and does the person actually authentically seem like they're enjoying doing it, or would they rather be doing something else?
Well, that's funny you say that, because a lot of my people know me from Kenny versus Spenny as being kind of angry. And when I do Kenny versus Spenny live with Kenny, I'm definitely at war, not just with Kenny, but with a huge segment of the audience who I understand are, in a sense, getting a kick out of being mean to me or whatever. And then there will be some who genuinely don't like me, but that's true of everyone. So it's a little tricky with me. I have to really feel the audience out and see if they're Kenny pricks, because then I can get into that attack mode, and people like that. Like, they do. They love it when I fight back and get angry and frustrated. Kenny's always said an angry Spenny is a funny Kenny. So I really, try to feel it out, especially with this tour. If it's just music, I play the songs, and most people just listen or shut up or whatever. They don't. But when I'm talking a lot into the microphone, which I will be in this tour, I never know what I'm going to get, right? Because people are fundamentally channeling Kenny Hotz, right, with me, right? And they'll say, "Pay Wolfish back," all the stuff which I will talk about in the show this week. The rumors, because some of them are so crazy, but it's a bizarre. I think both Kenny and I have a very odd form of creativity, a celebrity, whatever you want to call it. It's very strange. There's nothing normal about it, frankly. And I know show business. I'm a showbiz geek, so there's just nothing normal about it. We're like two freaks out on stage, doing our thing, which is very real and very close to our lives and reality and our real relationship. And it works, thank God, but there's nothing really normal about it. You'll never see 2 shows of ours. You might hear some bits that are similar, but they're all over the place, depending on, where we're coming from that day.
So to kind of tie it more towards the next stage of your career, because you mentioned that you're starting to post more on YouTube and you're starting to shell out more of this content. What does the future look like
Don't
for
know.
your career?
I honestly don't know. I feel like we're Kenny and I, and perhaps me alone as well, are sort of persona non grata on television because of the edginess of our work in the Me Too movement and what's going on in the world. I could be wrong about that. I've got one show that I want to do solo, a TV show. Whether that happens or not is, it is unlikely that it will happen, just because that's the nature of the business. I don't know. I'm getting on in years. I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a bit scary, to be honest, because this is all I've done for so many decades now. And either shit's going to happen, something's going to come together, or I'm just going to play bars until nobody buys tickets, and then my promoter pulls out, and or I don't really know. I don't know, and I should know, frankly. I mean, that's not a good thing to admit to, but I'm just being honest, because that's what I do. I'm not strategic at all about my career, and maybe I should be, but I'm not an actor. I don't really have any interest in acting. I've tried to act before. I don't think it was particularly good for a number of reasons. I'll talk about that in the show. So I don't really know. I'm not writing much. I'm writing funny songs, which aren't, not necessarily career building. We'll see what happens. But I have no answer to that question, other than I'll try to figure it out. But I've historically haven't been very good at figuring things out. So,
but I think that's probably the best answer I've ever been given to that question, and let me tell you why. Everyone, especially a lot of people now, are so used to highlighting themselves in a way where it seems that they always have their shit together, and there's always a path, there's always a plan, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, a lot of people are just flying by the seat of their pants day by day. And being the creative that you are, and having the career that you've had thus far, and you still are going to have a definitely more career down the line, because with the posting on the online stuff, the simplest, it's literally like a moth to a flame. People are attracted to the flame, and the creative work you have and have had in the past has created a draw for you, and people are still interested and want to know what you're doing. And I think by getting on that digital content train and rolling stuff out, I think it'll stick.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I just know, again, there's a compulsion I have to do stuff. So I'm always got projects that that are in various stages of development, most of which will go nowhere. And that's always been the same. Oh shit. Okay. He's replacing the guitar. I've got a resonator guitar. And as you know, I'm working Wednesday night. I want to use it for part of the show. Anyways, that's a whole other story. They're replacing the input jack, which is he's doing it without my permission. But anyways, it'll cost me money, but there you have it. So yeah, I don't know. There's no, here's the real thing. When you choose to do something like what we're doing with your life, it's risky. Life is risky in general, right? Like the days of where you're, guaranteed a retirement, and what do they call those payments that come after you work long enough, you
Pension?
get pension. Those days, they exist for some people, but it's not a guarantee anymore. So, but especially when you pursue something that you love, which is in a sense selfish, right? Because, if you're lucky and you make a lot of money, you can justify anything. But if you're just kind of getting by with it, I think it's selfish. I think I'm very selfish with my creativity and what I do. And I have a family to support, and maybe I would have done better by them if I sold shoes. I don't know. But, it's just always good to sort of be honest with yourself. What I do, being honest with you in a public forum, no matter how big or small it is crazy, but that's just the way I am. I've always been that way. But I think it's a risky venture, especially as you get older. You mentioned nostalgia. That's a good thing for me to hear that. I've heard that, of course, before. People that grew up watching Kenny versus Spenny will probably be interested in me, because I was very lucky and I had a TV show. I mean, if I didn't have Kenny versus Spenny, I don't know where I'd be right now, to be honest with you. But I feel very lucky, frankly. And, I feel like a little bit of pressure on myself to do something decent that isn't just simply a nostalgia act. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in Canada right now. I mean, we were in the States and we did that LA thing, but now I'm in Canada. I live here again, and I've got a family, and the different, lot less opportunity, a lot less opportunity, and yeah, I feel like anybody who does what we do for a living is in a sense risking you know risking their financial future. I think the only good thing is that people's financial future across the board is sort of scary, so it makes it a little easier to make the decision to do something you love to do.
Yeah, and well, that's kind of how, when you take a look at life and what it is, you kind of have to take a step back, and it's different for everyone. What do you value more? Could you be okay with having a steady income with a pension and a salary and take care of your family, but not be able to have the ability to pursue those creative pursuits and having those creative outlets? Or
Well,
would you rather be an artist and be that creative person?
the idea of it's sort of the gold standard of life if you can make your money doing what you love to do. But having said that, it's tricky, and when your family is involved and you have kids, that's a whole different game, right? I know a lot of I would say struggling entertainers or working entertainers, and they don't have kids, so it's a lot easier to justify those more selfish, narcissistic decisions when you don't have a family to support, right? Uh, and then age is a factor. I'm getting on in years. I've got arthritis. I've got there's shit going on, that everybody's going to experience. I would think in some form or another. And we don't live in a society, generally speaking, that is kind to the elderly. So what I've done strategically is to just be myself. I look at everything through the prism of, is this a Spenny thing? Is this something that I would do? And sometimes I make mistakes. It's not a foolproof method, but at least it's a grounding principle where I can look at everything that I do. The only things I've ever done that I regret doing were things where I broke that rule for frankly for economic reasons, because there was a payday. I did a show called Single White Spenny, which was a great idea, and I had a way of executing it. And then the muckety muck show business suits or whatever got involved and tinkered with it and had me working with people I didn't want to work with necessarily. And I was taken out of the driver's seat of being the showrunner. And I could have walked and said, no, this is not what I pitched you guys. This is not what I wanted to do. But I wanted the money, and I did it. And I'm glad I did it. It was an experience. Don't get me wrong. But the product itself was not something that I was particularly thrilled about. And, and of course, being Spenny, people will use that against me, as Kenny would, right? I mean, Kenny will call it the single season Spenny. And then I'll remind him that his Triumph of the Will was also a single season. But having said that, it was a bit of a sellout on I have to own that. I have to be honest about it. And that was the consequences. I liked the cash, I liked the experience, but it was not the show I wanted to do. But so you live with that ethic at your own peril, kind of thing.
I think it's also the factor of you have to look at what your life is in that moment and how a choice will affect what can come. Because yes, you can look back on it and reflect and recognize it, but it's important that you take that lesson back and it's good to recognize that some piece of work, because and I think this is probably one of the most honest interviews I've had thus far. This is my 70th something episode, but just people more than ever now need to be honest with themselves, because I feel like a lot of people just hide behind the social media posts or whatever it is, and not actually take the time to figure themselves out, not as just creatives, but as human beings.
Well, yeah, true. But the whole Machiavellian approach to life, of which I'm staunchly against, and it goes against all of my ethical and moral principles that I like to try to live up to. It actually works in some instances. You know what I mean? So, again, you live with and you're held accountable to the decision you make in this business. And, uh, that's it. To me, that it starts and ends there, but, frankly, when, there was no way I was going to walk away from a TV series that was starring me, especially coming out of Kenny versus Spenny, because I don't think people really appreciate the difficulty of working as a straight man, so to speak, even though it's a reality show, with a guy who will do anything to get a laugh, right? And is extremely aggressive in that regard, and funny, very funny, by the way. You don't really think of what are the consequences of that. Well, the consequences of that are, a lot of people love Kenny, and that show doesn't last forever. And even though we're doing a live touring together, we don't work that much. I have to do other things. I can't just rest my laurels on the Kenny versus Spenny tour, and I want to do other things. But that has its consequences. And circling back to where we started, that's sort of why I feel like, I can do this career retrospective as a way of introducing people to things I did years ago that they might not know, because of the long shadow of Kenny versus Spenny, and the being the straight guy in there who, didn't get to necessarily do comedically everything he wanted to do, because that wasn't how I approached that show. I was, the deal was Kenny, and I was the sort of everyman. How would every man deal with this stupid competition? So it was a bit of like I had a bridle on me. This gives me a chance to sort of repurpose things that I've done where there wasn't a bridle on me that people may not know about for whatever reason.
When you look back on that time of Kenny versus Spenny and how it developed your career, and then you move into now, how much of the Spenny character and kind of the persona that was being presented is still affecting certain things you can and can't do today?
I would say this, that and this comes up in our live show again, which is such a odd act that we have, if you want to call it. But when we were growing up, and Kenny and I had been friends for so many decades, I was a troublemaker. I was much more vandalistic and crazy with drugs and alcohol. So by the time we did Kenny versus Spenny, I had sort of worked through all that stuff in my life. So people don't even know about it. They're actually surprised to hear when I talk about how crazy I was. Now, Kenny, for comedic purposes, brings it up because in the live show, because I think it's almost like we've reversed each other in certain ways, because I don't think he particularly likes, he likes that he's sort of more famous than me, we'll say, or more popular than me, or more loved than me. But I don't think he likes, only being known for acting, the way he acted on that show. So the live show, the direction of the live show was he's going to bring up all this shit from my past, and I'm going to have to defend myself. And we found a way to make it entertaining and funny. But I mean, I think that's part of it, yeah, I think when I look at Kenny, the Spenny on Kenny versus Spenny, and it's me, I cared about rules, which I kind of do. It's not cool. It's not the cool character. And I've characterized myself as the reverse heel. And once I realized that I'm a wrestling fanatic, so going back to the old days, well, they still have heels and baby faces. I was the baby face in terms of playing by the rules and everything like that. And then when the fans sort of hated me for it, rather than become something that I wasn't, I just upped the ante and I became that guy on steroids, a reverse heel. So, in the old days, I would have been the good guy and Kenny would have been the bad guy. But as the culture changes, as wrestling changed, the bad guy in the Attitude Era, the bad guys became the good guys. So I became, high powered kind of in my arrogance and in my, lecturing people and all that stuff. And it worked comedically. So that was actually a good thing. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it does. And it kind of just makes me ask a follow-up I had. So you talk about the fact that on these live shows, Kenny is bringing up these things from your past to defend, and that's good if for comedic purposes and creating a good show. That's wonderful. But the personal side of it, I always think about the person as a person as opposed to the person as an entity that is there for entertainment. And so part of me has to wonder, how are you able to be able to put yourself in that vulnerable position with someone airing out your
that I don't know. And it's the same thing what you just said, that I was the most honest interview I've ever had. It's just in my nature to I'm not perfect in that regard, but I'm pretty good. I'll talk about things that most people would never talk about. Like you said, like a celebrity, for example, who might be tremendously insecure and maybe in financial straits, would never give that up publicly, where I have no problem doing that. I don't know why that is. But I know that's part of the Spenny guy. And so then that's what I'm going to do, because at the end of the day, there's a bit of truth in the concept creatively, doing what I do anyways, maybe not with actors, but, talk about what like I don't have to really worry about memorizing shit if I'm going on stage talking about my career and my life, right? It makes it easier that way. It makes it more authentic, whether people realize that or not. And it's just where I'm at. You know what I mean? I guess I'm more in whatever small sense, but a personality than I am any one given thing. Right. So when I play my serious music, I'm still cracking jokes and being Spenny. Right. So that just became, I hate to say by brand, but that's who I am. And that's just the way I can negotiate my way through all the creative stuff that I do, and sometimes I'll take it to, like the Sex with Spenny show that I'm doing on my YouTube channel it came from a newspaper, that Windsor Independent. I had a column where I would answer sex advice questions. And I had no business answering sex advice questions. I wasn't Dr. Ruth or Joyce Brothers or any of the number of well-known sex, Sue Johansson from Canada. I just thought it would be funny so there I'm being completely disingenuous. I'm being true to my comedic sense, but when last night show, we did a show last night, and I said that I had a Prince Charles, which is different than a Prince, what's it, the Prince Albert, where I have a big rod that goes right through the shaft of my penis. It's all bullshit, right? But it's just funny. But I like the premise of an idiot with the sex advice show. Who has no penchant to tell the truth or be responsible. Now I have a co-host on that show who is sort of maybe not a credentialed sex expert. It's a woman, but that came from a live show I did on a few university campuses where they had a sort of sexual awareness thing. And I sold a show where, well, you bring on your expert from the campus and I'll be there supplying humor. So it's a bit, where I become the funny guy instead of, what Kenny kind of was on that show. And it's fun for me to do that. It lets me, it makes me feel loose and whatever. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when you have a YouTube channel and you're putting shows on, and maybe 2,000 people will see the show once it's, either live or when we put it up on the channel, I feel like I can take a lot of risks and chances because at the end of the day, it's not being broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people. So I just have fun with it.
So we're gonna wrap this up in a bit, but I want to ask you one more question, and this is kind of regarding the drive that pushes the creative energy, because everyone has a different kind of drive, and I'm very curious, having the career you've had and the things you've done then and now and in the future, what is that thing inside you that keeps you pushing to create?
I like it. Here's an example. Like here's a comic book I did called Hypno Bitch. It's drawn by a famous comic book artist, a good friend of mine. It was just an idea that was funny. I wanted it to be a movie. I couldn't get the movie made, and then I met him, and he said, "Let's do a comic book about it." And I went, "Sure." And you always talk about how much money you're going to make with it, because it requires a lot of work where you're not paid, right? But you think the finished product, and we've made some money, and I've still got boxes of the book. But so then why did I do it? It's because I liked working with my friend Tony Gray, the artist, and I liked the story, obviously enough that I wanted to make a movie about it. And rather than just, throw the whole idea down the toilet because I couldn't get a movie made, which would cost a couple of $1 million probably, now I have a comic book of that story. So there's a certain kind of, it's like the sex addict with the notches on their bedpost. You just want to keep, and the YouTube channel, which everyone told me, or not everyone, many people told me I should do that because a lot of people were doing it. And now I'm seeing, oh my God, all these videos. And, eventually at some point, I'm going to have hundreds of these videos that either people are going to give a shit about or not give a shit about it. So there's a compulsion to have a good time and be creative. And there's the idea in the back of my head that just keep creating content, no matter, even if I have to get a day job one day, I'll still play my music and play in bars. You know what I mean? Because it's just part of who I am. But I mean, I get a lot of people over the course of my career, young people coming up to me asking for advice. And in a weird way, strategic advice is one thing, but, if you're really hell bound to be in this business, you're just going to do it. You don't need anyone to tell you. It's just who you are. It's your nature. And that doesn't mean you're going to be successful, but you're going to figure things out mostly for yourself. And, show business is somewhat difficult to navigate. So I understand that. But, a lot of people just want to be famous, right? It's not really about the work. It's about the concept of celebrity. I mean, that I've seen that a lot, where, it's just anything but working a normal day job, what I mean? They'll do, but they have no real passion for it. They have no history. I came from a showbiz family. My cousin Marjorie was, she was dragging me around to comedy clubs when I was underage, so I came by it really honestly. And, that's a great advantage that I had. You don't have to have that, but I think you have to have that, what you said before, where does it come from? The desire to create, even in the, even in moments when everything's going down the shitter, why not just give up, but I can't, it's just who I am.
And I think that's honestly a beautiful place to end this podcast. Spencer, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time. Just sit down with me for a bit and help plug these shows. Let's name off all the cities and everything so everyone knows where you're going.
Oh yeah, sure. So here it is written down. So it's Peterborough, the Red Dog on the 18th, which is next Wednesday, the 19th in Barrie at the Queen's, August 20th in London, Ontario at Dawgs. And this mini tour finishes up on the 21st in Niagara Falls at Camp Cataract, which is the weirdest name I've ever heard of for a club. There you go.
Hopefully it's a fun time. All the links to the shows and tickets are in the description down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, Spencer, thank you again, man. And I look forward to meeting you in person and doing a show together in a couple days.
Yeah, this was fun. We'll see you then.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Take it easy. Peace.